There will be a housing challenge upon reentry. Some things we just have to accept so that we don't go into a thing with unrealistic expectations, and unrealistic expectations can send you back in the opposite direction. So if we know this, being forewarned is forearmed. So what you have to do when it comes to reintegrating into society and obtaining housing is to go to a program who has some kind of say in the community, reputation in the community, the county in which you go to, because they have resources and they have partnerships with resources to whereas you're able to build a connection and a relationship that will eventually get you housing. And that is what I did. I ended up going through a program, and through that program, they gave me a referral to another program, which ended up putting me on the waiting list, #1 for housing. So I was able to get a housing voucher. My background did come into play, but the supervisor of the program vouched for me at the apartment. So it's all about building relationships, and you can't do this by yourself. So you're gonna have to build relationships with people who supply housing and provide housing. And through those relationships, you'll be able to have that housing need met.
In apartments, when you have mediocre credit, and a criminal history, you just have to be honest with them. You're honest and upfront. Some will tell you right off the bat, then don't spend the money to apply here. Some will say, let's look at it. I think I can work with you. And so that's how I found it easy to find an apartment. It's because I was just very honest. This is what I have. This is what I'm making. This is my past. Will you accept an application from me? Some said no, and then I walked in, and that's very hard, because I'm going to tell you, the first one I went to treated me, just hurry up and get out of the office. But then, and it was really upsetting, and you felt like the person that got in trouble all those years ago. But the point is, don't give up. I mean, one no doesn't mean anything. So then I went to another one, and this was a different manager. She was pleasant, nice, said, absolutely, let's just run everything. We'll get you into an apartment. And she was able to get me into an apartment within a month. It was all about being honest with them. If you're not honest, and they're gonna find it anyway. So just be honest with what's out there. This is my credit. This is what my criminal is. Will you accept me?
When my housing came up, it's like everything was speeding, I guess because I kept trusting in God through it, and I wasn't looking at what I kept seeing around me, because if I kept looking at what was around me, it would take the focus off of what God was really trying to do for me. Yes, it was times that I would go like, oh, I got tired of waiting. I got tired of this. And then I'll go like, oh God, I'm not tired. I'm not tired of waiting on you. I'm just tired of what I'm seeing, but I'm not tired of waiting on you. So I have to get myself back on the road each time I tuck myself off.
I recommend, I really do, and I know people don't want to, and I didn't want to be in a halfway house when I first went home, but if they can't go to family, sometimes family's not best. I realized after I'd been out a while that my family passed away while I was incarcerated, but had they not, I don't know if I'd have made it, because I'd been to prison before. Every time I came home, went to them, I went back. This time I haven't been back. So, I mean, yes, it's sad that they're gone, but there's a reason, and I'm making it. I recommend halfway house or sober living houses, or find someone you can be a roommate with. That way you're not alone, because it gets really lonely living alone. But have a roommate, have someone that you're comfortable with, and share the expenses. And that way it's just easier. But always try to be around positive people that are doing the right thing. Don't go around people that are doing the wrong things, because you will fall. It's just too hard or too easy.
At some point, you will get a card when it comes to re-entering society from prison. But notice I said at some point, because if there's not one already waiting for you, you're gonna have to take public transportation. You will have to walk. And sometimes I think when we have to endure certain things, we think that it's only us, that it's raining only on our side of the street. But this is normal. It's not dysfunctional. Something it's nothing wrong with you. It's just this is the process that you have to get to and go through in order to be successful again. I had to walk almost a mile to my first bus. And that bus led to the train. And then the train ride was long. Running from dogs. I actually got bit by a dog on my way to my paycheck. But I needed the paycheck. So by any means necessary, I had to get there. And so I had to ride the bus. I had to humble myself and do it because I knew that this was not the destination. This was the transportation to better. And sometimes the transportation to better does not look good. It comes in the form of public transportation. But it is a way to a way. And we need that way in order to be successful. And that way is a honest living. It is a paycheck that you earn honestly, and you don't get it by doing and making bad choices.
Another way I was able to save money was through carpooling. Open your mouth, talk, because that's where God say, do not forsake fellowship, because it's in that fellowship you gain insight to know, oh, this person's going to the same place I'm going to, or this person's going to church with me. So we start carpooling. I do 1 week, they do the next week. And a week of not driving saves money and time.
As far as getting my car loan, that's kind of how that started. She told me, don't have a lot of hits on your credit. Don't go apply for a lot of things. If you go somewhere and they deny your credit and there's a hit on your credit and a denial, that's really bad. And if you have very many of those, your credit score is going to start dropping. And I was not in a position, well, when I didn't have a credit score. And I said, I don't understand why. There should be a number, even if it's, 200. I should have a number assigned so I know a scorecard. We need a scorecard, right? How do we know where to go? So I applied for this car loan through a car dealership first, which they assured me that I was going to have credit and that they were going to put me in a vehicle. So when I did go to the credit union, I had that hit, but it wasn't terrible. And I did not have a credit number. They wanted a cosigner. I had someone who would do it, but I didn't want that because who knows what's going to happen in your life. I don't want to put that on someone else. I've done that in the past. And I was just adamant that I was going to do it myself. And I don't know if that had something to do with it, but they just trusted me. And I also did some things like there's things that you can do, like you can let them take that directly out of your account. You can let them pay. She gave me a lower interest rate if I paid twice a month instead of once a month. If you pay 4 times a month, once a week, that your interest rate's even lower. And that was just at my bank. And just asking enough questions that she knew I was interested in doing the right thing, she just was free with her information and advice. And so I think just not being afraid to ask questions or think that you're taking up their time. That's what they do. So I just asked a lot of questions and I just told her, I've been gone a long time and I haven't done this by myself in like 18 years. So can you help? And she did.
They weren't really concerned about the credit history. They were very understanding that, people have life. Life happens. They were just very adamant on employment. They wanted to know our employment history, to know that we can make those payments. Of course, the vehicle we got had high mileage and was, a ridiculous interest rate, which we knew was going to happen. But the goal was work on that, make payments on time for a year, and then refinance or do whatever. So we made our payments on time, never were late. We actually turned that vehicle back in, and it was a complete blessing the way it happened, because it would have been a voluntary repossession, which is negative on your credit. We had went through Leaf Johnson, a dealership. We had found a van for a lower interest rate, and it was new, and we prayed a lot about it. So we turned the van back into Texas Auto Center and talked to them on the phone, and they sent us a letter, and nothing negative resulted of it. They just resold the car, I'm sure. So we still had a fairly high interest rate with the second vehicle that we got. And then just, I'd say about 7 or 8 months ago, we went through our credit union and refinanced it for 6%. So I was very, very happy about that.
In April, I had gotten a job. It was the beginning of April, and I was using my cousin's car because I was staying with him and his wife. And because my hours were evening, I needed a car because I didn't think it was fair to be taking his car, when he needed to go to work himself. So I got online, got pre-approved for a loan, was told to go to a certain dealer. I went there and went through all the process. I had been doing research online, pulled up the cars that they showed me, and if a car didn't have the Carfax on it, I wouldn't even think about it because I want to know the history, because I need to know the history. I can't afford to have a car nickel and dime me to death. Even if it's a $7,000 car, I can't afford to put another $7,000 into it just fixing it. So if it didn't have Carfax, I knew that wasn't an option anyway. And I wanted to have a car that didn't have a lot of owners, not a lot of accidents, because I knew that was just going to be a lot of trouble in the long run. And the one that I ended up purchasing, it wasn't the best style that I've never heard of a Versa Note. I had the Sentra and the Altima, it was like, those are nice, pretty cars. So I was like, well, and then I was looking, and that was the one that had the least amount of miles, the best gas mileage, because we lived out in the country, out in Hockley, and I worked in Houston, so it's a commute. And I knew I couldn't afford to spend a lot on gas. So I was like, you know what? This is the one I'm gonna go for. And it was like $75.50. And they taxed on, $2,000 more for the tax, title, license, all that. My cousin, since he did co-sign, and at first he said he wasn't gonna co-sign, I called him, I said, well, they want $3,500 down or a co-signer. I said, so I don't know what to do. And he's like, well, I'll come co-sign you. He's like, my lunch is in a little bit. Can you come get me? So I went from the dealer, picked him up. He came and co-signed. He drove away in his car. I drove away in my car. So I was like, that was a God thing, because he had said he wasn't going to do it, that they couldn't do it. So it all works out the way we needed, because one of the girls at Murray, we prayed specific prayer earlier that week because she knew I got a job, knew I was looking for a car, and over the phone, she called, I was shopping and I answered it, and we prayed. Miss Catherine, she is a wonderful prayer warrior. She prayed that prayer and we got the car that God meant for me to have.